I think first of all, I would like to say that yes, I think you actually articulated some of the challenges in the real estate space in Nigeria in particular. We don't come in on the classic property management or property development where we're looking to do deals or create a company. We're looking to actually partner with developers on ground. And our first project in Nigeria, which we're all familiar with the Palms project, which we actually partnered with a developer who's here, Chairman Tayo of Persianas. So, and we've been able to follow that through with a couple of other projects in Nigeria as well as in Accra, and we're quite pleased with that. Another key challenge we found was the fact that there really hasn't been the development management skills. We've had so many years without development of the skill of nature of the projects we're looking to do. And what we've been able to do actually now in the markets we are in, focused in sub-Saharan Africa, is a development platform. We've actually formed a company which helps us to be able to manage the development from concept to actually completion and even management of the projects, which brings to bear both, I'll say, local skills, local knowledge of how to actually operate, get permits locally, up to manage the construction, and also bringing in their international expertise. So we think we've actually got that right. We have a company in West Africa called Laurus Development Partners. We have a similar one also in East Africa, and that's what we do.
We'll just move on to get a developer's perspective from Persianas. We're honored to have the chairman here, Tayo Amushon, and Mike Williams, a director in Persianas, and they'll be sharing with us their experiences and the most challenging aspect of, the transactions and the projects they've worked on and how they worked around this and ideas around how, we can help alleviate some of these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I would like to say one has evolved from just having a passion on real estate to now turning it into a business. And I think I have personally lived it, for the past maybe 12 years. The gentleman on my left used to work for Actis, and I used to negotiate with him on the buyout, and it cost me a lot of money, but I realized I needed him, and I went back to him to say, please come and help me out with some of these challenges. Today, we built a mall in Enugu. When I was going to Enugu also, people said, what's going on in Enugu? Is there anything in Enugu? I said, of course, there are human beings that live there. Today, Enugu is now the third best shop for ShopRite right now. In Lagos they do about, in Ikeja they do about if I can freely tell you, they have accounts 120 million a week, or a month. And in Palms they do about 90 million naira a month, and in Enugu they do about 75 million. They themselves cannot believe it. But yet, all this cannot be sustainable if we don't find a way to make real estate development easier to do, in my own opinion. I was telling the governor of Central Bank, he was saying, Tayo needs help from me. I said, no, I don't need help from you, But let's have a situation where mortgages are like, single digits. In that case, what would automatically happen? Developers will go in there, build more things, contractors will employ people, and the rest of it. All that does not exist in this country right now, And there's nothing, no industry you want to do that real estate or infrastructure in one form or the other does not come in. And also, I believe that because the market is so big, everybody's concentrating on Lagos. This is very essential. Or on Somalia. There's 140 million people spread around this country. There are human beings that need houses, that need sports recreation, that need to shop, that need everything. You need to build block and mortar for them.
We'll just hear from Mike now, who formerly was wearing the hat of a financier, and now you're wearing the hat of a developer. So we're very interested to hear your perspective on this.
Perhaps for me to just give you an idea of the challenges and to come back to that is perhaps to articulate how we've decided to deal with a lot of the challenges and how we've restructured or how we're busy structuring Perseanus as a business, which we hope to list one day. So listening to the previous panel discussion on IFRS, corporate governance, and all these issues, we've realized we have to do that as a business. So we are now moving towards being IFRS compliant, IFC compliant in terms of their performance standards. And the main reason for that is that we then are able to attract investment. People then want to invest in us because we've got the right infrastructure in place. So we've taken on that challenge, and that's one very important one for us. And it's actually quite difficult to match real estate to all the corporate governance and requirements of the IFRS and all your banking requirements when you raise money and your investor requirements and their exit requirements and the issues around deal flow. Projects take time. It costs money. If time is money, it's straightforward to us. Every month, the interest bill during construction ticks over. We watch it. It's like a slot machine. And the longer construction takes, the more expensive our projects are. On the other side of the equation, we have tenants who are constantly telling us our rents are too high. We can't do business. Please give us a reprieve. And we have to acknowledge that, because if they don't do well and trade, we don't have the critical mass in our shopping centers to be able to pay the banks and ultimately pay returns to our investors. So we have to figure out a way to bring our construction costs down. So when we look at viabilities now, we don't just add an inflation number based on what somebody's developed in the past. We're actually striving real hard to bring it down substantially so that we can pass that on to tenants, firstly, who are the people who pay the rent, and secondly, so that we can afford the expensive finance that we have from our various banks.
We'll hear now from Jimmy Benson, who is the company secretary of LSDPC, Lagos State Development and Property Corporation, and he'll be sharing with us their strategies to reducing the housing deficit, which is estimated somewhere between 15 to 20 million units.
Today, it is stated that Nigeria has a housing deficit of 17 million. And I'm going to narrow it down to Lagos. Lagos has a housing deficit of about 5 million. So it means that all things being equal, if we need to breach the deficit in 10 years, we need to be producing 500,000 units per annum for the next 10 years. Indeed, we live in what the US military call a VUCA world. VUCA, the V is the market is volatile. The U is its market is uncertain. The C, very complex. The A is the market is very ambiguous. In meeting of this challenge, we've divided or we've segmented our problems into three. We believe that in reducing the housing deficit, there are three strategies we've embarked upon. One is developing greenfields. It's very expensive. It's the least strategy we like to use because it means we have to go and open on new frontiers, and it involves a lot of capital expenditure. The second strategy we use is what we call regeneration. We go into our assets we built in the past and we try and remodify them and get extra units out of them. The major one that we're focusing on now is what you call the urban infill, which means that we look for areas that are run down but are in the city center. You know, we try and tap into the existing infrastructure. So that reduces our cost of building infrastructure, it reduces it by 60% because the infrastructure, they say, carries about 60% of the project cost.
So we'll be hearing the perspective of the PAMSEC of Lands of Lagos State, Mr. Hakeem Muri Okwala.
As a regulator in the real estate sector, my primary function is to ensure that Funke has something to fund and Persiana's group have something to develop, which is to provide the land. Provision of infrastructure becomes largely a contentious issue as to whose responsibility it is to provide such infrastructure. But provision of infrastructure and governance means that you and I have to give and take. In bridging the gap of provision of housing in Nigeria, something that my colleague failed to mention is that the state government in its own little way has started an initiative called the Lagos Homes Ownership Mortgage Scheme, whereby we are now in discussions with various financial institutions to source for funding, apart from the funds that you have already provided by the payment of your taxes, which we will merge together to provide housing needs, to bridge this housing needs deficit and make it available to you at what presently doesn't exist, which is the single-digit interest rate presently not obtainable in the financial institutions, by our own equity contribution of nearly the same thing we need from the actors and the financial institutions.